Hey there, YouTube. Do you enjoy NFL mock drafts? Here at Utility Sports, we continue to push out mock drafts weekly, and we encourage you to subscribe to our channel. And by doing this, you have access to our content for free, and we would really appreciate your support. Please hit the subscribe button and the like button if you do enjoy this video. So we are going into the second round of our NFL mock draft. We had done on Monday our first round mock, and I will quickly go over that. On the left-hand side here where my mouse is, you will see Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, and I will scroll through some of the picks that we made on Monday. And then we're going to continue it into the second round today. And I have some interesting picks. I'm really excited to see what you guys have to say about that. I'm going to continue panning through it. So hopefully you saw your team and their selection. And we are going to continue with pick 33. So the New York Jets, obviously, we had them taking Trevor Lawrence. Now we are at the position where they need some defensive help. They definitely need some defensive help, especially at the cornerback spot. And I think a perfect fit for the New York Jets would be Eric Stokes, who's a man-to-man corner. He's a little grabby at times, but he is a pretty good man-to-man guy. He very well could actually go in the first round of the draft. So I guess we'll have to see where his value sits after the combine and everything. So Eric Stokes will be the pick. And then looking at the Jacksonville Jaguars, obviously they have some needs because, I mean, they are one of the worst teams in football right now, but they do have a bright future. So considering that, they need to replace the safety position. They traded Ronnie Harrison away to Cleveland. So that kind of opened up a spot because we've seen some rotational guys. We've seen Daniel Thomas play, who got injured, Jared Wilson, et cetera, et cetera. Andrew Wingard played safety as well. So for this selection, Trayvon Merrick from TCU is going to be the pick for the Jaguars. You got to get some secondary help. They did it last year with C.J. Henderson, and now they are going to get some more help with Trayvon Merrick at the safety spot. So looking at the Cincinnati Bengals, obviously they have some needs as well. We have to address. I think the pass rushing is really big because they traded away Carlos Dunlap. They need to get an edge, and Quincy Roche from the University of Miami will be the selection. He was a transfer, came to Miami. He's having a pretty good year, and honestly, I see him as a top of the second round prospect. And for Cincinnati, you really got to get some pass rushing help, obviously. So with that pick, that kind of gives you that. And looking at the Chargers here, you have to protect Justin Herbert. He's your franchise guy. You're going to want to get a tackle, ideally. So right now we have a couple of names on here, but Alex Leatherwood is going to be the selection. Since you're the Chargers, you have to protect Herbert at all costs. You have Bulaga at right tackle, and then ideally you get Leatherwood as your left tackle. Or you can switch it up, but Bulaga has played a lot of right tackle in his career, so that's where we're going to go with Leatherwood, hoping he can play the left tackle spot. So now for the Dallas Cowboys, in the first round we had them going corner. We're going to continue to address the secondary for the Dallas Cowboys, and we are going to go actually with Jevon Holland. He's a guy that does a lot of things well. I mean, he's a very well-rounded safety. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Xavier Woods and, what's going to take place. It could be a revolving door for the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to have to see if they can get him re-signed. They might be a little strapped for cash, so they got to make something happen with this selection. So Jevon Holland, stepping in at the safety spot, continue to improve your secondary if you're Dallas. You got Surtain in the first, you got Holland in the second. You're feeling pretty good about yourself with that pick. Now at 38, we have the Eagles, and we are actually going to look at the secondary position as well. I think that you could look linebacker. I definitely think that you could go with one of these guys, but to look at it holistically, I think we're going to go with Asante Samuel Jr. Obviously, his dad played for the Eagles, but Asante Samuel Jr. is a really fun prospect. And just having that storyline back to, him going to play for the Eagles like his father, I think that adds a lot of – it doesn't really add value, but it's kind of a fun storyline to bring up. Plus, they need secondary help. So for the Philadelphia Eagles, I really like that selection. And at 39, for the Carolina Panthers, we addressed the linebacker spot with Micah Parsons in the first. So now we're going to come back and we're going to take a corner, and Darian Kendrick from Clemson, get some more secondary help, and a guy opposite of Jackson in your corner room, and just continue to improve that defense, because this team is an up-and-coming team in the NFL. I really like what the Panthers have going on. So getting another corner is really crucial for them. So now we're at the Atlanta Falcons pick, and I think it's very important to continue to work on that defense. Kwity Paye was the selection in the first round for the Atlanta Falcons, but now we're going to probably be looking at linebacker, and we're going to go Dylan Moses, who is an athletic linebacker from the University of Alabama. And you just got to keep working on the linebacking position if you're the Falcons, and the defense as a whole. The offense is fine right now. I'm kind of interested to see where the Falcons GM decides to go, the future GM and future head coach, what kind of position that they want to go towards for this selection in the second round. I think it's clear and obvious that they want to go edge probably in the first round, considering that they've had some issues there. Vic Beasley's gone, and McKinley's gone. So now you have to come back. You get yourself a linebacker after getting the edge rusher in the first round. For Dylan Moses to be here at 40, you feel pretty good about that selection. So now looking at the Dolphins pick, obviously there's a couple of things that you could do here. You could look at offensive line. So we'll take a look at kind of what they have available here. Josh Myers and a number of other guys. You want to also work on the defense a little bit. But for the purposes of this draft, we've already taken a wide receiver, and then we took Karamoa as well in the first round. This is one of the tougher picks to nail down. Obviously, I think that Jalen Mayfield could be a selection here. Obviously, I think the Dolphins just got to continue to protect Tua, and getting Jalen Mayfield makes a lot of sense here at pick 41. He's one of the better tackle prospects in the class. Really like the value, at that pick 41. So now we have the Washington football team here at 42. We're also going to look tackle. They desperately need another tackle for that team. And since they're going to be selecting Zach Wilson in the first, according to this mock, it only makes sense to come back and, get a guy that can protect him. The Redskins have a pretty good foundation. The Washington football team have a pretty good foundation. And to get Slater here at 42, you got to protect your franchise quarterback in Zach Wilson under the assumption that they draft him in the first. So we're going to go Rashawn Slater. So now at pick 43 for the Denver Broncos. We had them take a corner in the first, and now we have to take a look at the defense again. And I think another edge rusher really makes sense. I'm going to have them go Carlos Basham. Just continue to improve your pass rushing. And the Broncos have been really banged up this year, unfortunately. But, there's brighter things on the horizon, and getting a pass rusher is going to go a long ways in helping out that football team. So now at pick 44, we have the Detroit Lions. And obviously one of their biggest needs is interior defensive line, right? So going on the selection here, we're going to go with Marvin Wilson, who's going to be able to help stop the run. He's going to be able to get after the passer a little bit, but his main strength is defending against the run. And for the Detroit Lions, you want to really do that. They've had some struggles against the run this year. We saw Delvin Cook have a huge game against the Detroit Lions. And really, it's all about improving that interior of your defensive line. And it's going to be really interesting. Once again, we have another head coach and GM vacancy there. So we'll have to see what direction they want to go, if they bring in an offensive-minded guy or defensive-minded guy. But I think regardless, they're going to want to address that interior defensive line spot. So now we are at pick 45. We already had the Chicago Bears go with Trey Lance. So what else do the Bears need? They definitely need a tackle at this point. I think we're going to have them let's take a look at some of the tackles that are available. Dylan Radins from North Dakota State would only make sense. If they were looking at Trey Lance for their first-round selection, to come back with the North Dakota State kid again, they feel comfortable possibly taking from there. So Radins is going to be a really good pick. You got to get a tackle for him. Ideally, you could put him at the right tackle spot, replace the whole Bobby Massey issue And the Bears just got to keep improving that offensive line and that offense as a whole. I mean, they have a good defense, but there's some things on the offense we'd like to clean up a little bit, and getting the quarterback and the tackle, could do that for them. Now at pick 46, we have the San Francisco 49ers. One of their biggest needs is obviously the interior offensive line, but also we have to consider the cornerback room. And Tyson Campbell from Georgia is going to help them out. Richard Sherman said that he is not likely going to be back with the 49ers next year, so you have to address that corner spot with this selection at 46. Tyson Campbell will be the pick, in my opinion. Now at 47, we have the Arizona Cardinals. Once again, a team that also needs a corner. So we're going to actually go with Paulson Adebo from Stanford. I think that he's really going to fit in with the Cardinals, especially since they need a corner. They definitely have to address that spot. They have Byron Murphy. They have Patrick Peterson. But you also have to have another guy in the fold if you're Arizona. So now we're at 48. For New England, they definitely need to address the interior of their defensive line. I think Jordan Davis makes a lot of sense here. I think Darius Stills makes a lot of sense. I'm gonna go with Stills on this one. Once again, New England needs to get better up the middle. They need to get stronger. The problem is they've lost a couple of guys due to opt-out. They've lost some guys in free agency. So you got to continue to rebuild that defense. And Darius Stills makes a lot of sense to me for New England on their interior of their defensive line. So now looking at 49, so we have to look at the Ravens here and say they probably need a safety, and there's a couple of guys that make sense here. I think Richard LeCounte, the third from Georgia, makes quite a bit of sense for them. Obviously, the Ravens lost Earl Thomas. That just didn't go well. Not a good ending there, but LeCounte the third is going to be a good selection for them. You get a safety that you desperately need in Baltimore, and I think he fits in nicely with that defense. So now we're sitting at pick 50 here. They took Tufele in the first round for the Raiders, and now we have to also consider the edge position. Aiden Hutchinson will be the selection for the Raiders. Unfortunately, they need to get some more pass rush. And I think Aiden Hutchinson helps them in doing so. They got to kind of figure out what's going to happen with some of their current guys on the defensive line. Some people didn't like the interior defensive lineman pick in the first round, but I think they need to continue to address this spot. If you look at the Raiders, they're one of the worst pass rushing teams so far this year statistically. And obviously some changes need to be made there. Also, another pick, I do want to preface this. I think that a linebacker makes sense at this spot too. So if you're a Raiders fan, I totally get the need for a linebacker. You very well could go one with that selection. But for the purposes of this draft, I'm going to go with the edge. So now we're sitting at 51. We have the New York Giants on the board. Some of the needs they have are linebacker and edge. They also need a corner. And Israel Mukwamu from the University of South Carolina is going to be the selection. You got to have another guy opposite of James Bradbury. And I think that Mukwamu makes a lot of sense for the Giants moving forward. Now we're at pick 52. We have the Jacksonville Jaguars. And honestly, for the Jags, it's all about improving the interior of the defensive line. I could see a tight end possibly in this situation, like Freiermuth is sitting around here. One of the better tight ends in the class, probably the second best tight end in the class. But for the Jags, you have to keep improving your interior of your defensive line. They took Devon Hamilton last year in the third round. So now you have to look for another one possibly. Taven Bryan probably, it's not going to work out. He's obviously had some issues. But Jordan Davis will likely be the selection for the Jags here. They do possibly need another corner at this spot, but the interior of the defensive line is really, really important. So we will be going Jordan Davis. So now at pick 53, we have the Buccaneers. And honestly, they need to replace somebody that is currently on their D-line that won't be there next year. And that's going to be Ndamukong Suh. For the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you have to make sure you keep up that stout run defense. And Tyler Shelvin really gives you that opportunity to continue that, because you're going to lose Ndamukong Suh. He's going to depart in free agency. You don't have a ton of money to retain him. So getting Tyler Shelvin is going to be a really big deal for the Buccaneers. Now we're sitting at pick 54. We have the Miami Dolphins. I think interior of their offensive line is definitely going to be a need here. You got to continue to protect Tua. We will see. Okay, Josh Myers is on the board. We have Deontay Brown is on the board. I think Josh Myers is going to make the most sense from Ohio State. If you're the Miami Dolphins, you got to protect Tua, and a way of doing that is just continue to draft offensive linemen. And I really feel good about that for the Dolphins because they have a great foundation. They really do. And you got to just protect your franchise guy, especially with the injury concern that you had with him going into the draft, through the draft. And you just got to make sure you protect him because he is your franchise guy. Same thing like with the Chargers. You got to protect those franchise quarterbacks. So now pick 55, we have the Indianapolis Colts. So in the first round, we had them going tackle. Second round, they could be looking to replace a departing free agent possibly, and that's going to be T.Y. Hilton. So now we have to start looking at some wideouts. Wideouts on this stretch of the draft will likely start to go off the board quickly, and I see Chris Olave as a definite fit for whoever their next quarterback is. It kind of depends. I've seen Matt Stafford rumors to the Indianapolis Colts, and I really like those rumors. I think that makes some sense, but for the purposes of this, we are going to have them go Chris Olave. They might also stay with some in-house names like Jacob Eason at the quarterback position or Jacoby Brissett. I really liked Eason coming out of Washington last year, and Chris Olave is going to be a phenomenal deep threat for the Indianapolis Colts. They'll have Paris Campbell, and they'll have him, and Michael Pittman's another guy that they'll have in their wide receiving core. So I really like that for the Colts, getting another wideout. Now at pick 56, we're going to see another wide receiver go off the board here. For the Tennessee Titans, you have to get somebody that's opposite of A.J. Brown. Corey Davis is a guy that they currently have, but they declined his fifth-year option, and he won't be back next year unless they have a contract in place ready for an extension. But since we don't know the details of that, we're going to actually have them go Amon-Ra St. Brown. He had a phenomenal game last week. He ended up catching, I think it was 4 touchdowns in the first quarter of their game. So Amon-Ra St. Brown really works out, not only because, he's a good receiver, but the value comes for him is the run blocking. He's one of the better run blocking wide receivers in this class. And obviously you have Derrick Henry on your team. So you're going to want some guys that are willing to be, blockers in this offense for him. So Amon-Ra St. Brown makes a ton of sense for the Tennessee Titans. So now pick 57, we have the Seattle Seahawks. And I'm going to actually have them go Pat Freiermuth from Penn State. If you're the Seahawks, you would like to see an improvement over Will Dissly likely, and you got to get Russell Wilson another weapon. So Pat Freiermuth does a lot of good, and honestly, for him to be at 57, you're feeling really good about yourself if you're the Seahawks, and he's still here at this spot. So Seattle gets another weapon for Russell Wilson. So now we're sitting at pick 58. We have the Rams on the clock. They need to continue to address that offensive line, obviously. Getting a little older, Liam Eichenberg will be the selection from Notre Dame, or Eichenberg. And for the Rams, it's just about continuing to, hedge for the future. You got to get yourself a tackle. That was one of their biggest needs. And I really like Eichenberg to the Rams at this spot. So now we're at pick 59. We have the Buffalo Bills on the clock. One of the bigger needs here as well is offensive tackle, and I think you need to protect Josh Allen. You got to get yourself a tackle at this point. We're going to have Jackson Carman off the board here from Clemson. Go to Buffalo. You got to protect the quarterback, and the Bills are in a really good position. Obviously, the Stephon Diggs trade worked out, but they weren't able to have a first-rounder last year, so they lost out on that pick equity, lost a couple of other picks. But they're going to stay here. They're going to get their offensive tackle and continue to build that offense. Now at pick 60, we have the Cleveland Browns, and one of their biggest needs is a linebacker. So we are going to have them go with Nick Bolton from Missouri. I think that he fits in really nicely with the Browns. And for Cleveland, you just got to keep improving that defense. Nick Bolton's going to be able to step in day one and be a major contributor for the Browns. Really surprising season so far for the Browns, and what we've seen, just incredible. The turnaround with Kevin Stefanski, that was an offensive coordinator for the Vikings. he goes to Cleveland and does a phenomenal job with discipline, and the whole team's firing on all cylinders. So great job by Stefanski in the turnaround there. So now you're sitting at pick 61. You have the Green Bay Packers on the board. We had them go Shaun Wade in the first. Now we can consider getting Aaron Rodgers another weapon here. Rondale Moore is going to be the selection. Moore is definitely going to be a guy that you can put in the slot. And he's going to be able to work out of that. I really like Rondale Moore. He's a smaller receiver from Purdue, but he runs really good routes. And honestly, I think that getting him at 61 is an absolute steal if you're the Packers. We'll see if the board falls this way. I'm not sure if he'll last this late, but Rondale Moore is a phenomenal prospect. Taking a look at pick 62, once again, the Chiefs only have 2 wide receivers under contract at the start of next year. A lot of uncertainty with that group, so they might look to address that position. And Kadarius Toney from Florida, who's a dynamic receiver, would fit in really nicely with the Chiefs. You got to give Patrick Mahomes a weapon since they only have a couple of guys under contract next year. So you have to be ready to hedge against that. And to have Toney at this late is going to be really good too. This speaks volumes to how deep this wide receiver class is. Like last year was another one of those deep ones, but this one as well has got some depth to it. So Kadarius Toney is going to be the selection at pick 62. At 63, we have the New Orleans Saints, who have a very, very good roster holistically. We're going to have them stay in state and go Kerry Vincent Jr. from LSU. I really like that pick. You got to get another cornerback if you're New Orleans, and just having one filled with this selection is going to look really good. Kerry Vincent Jr. is a good corner. There's been a little bit of struggles this year, but honestly, I think he's going to be a pretty good pro once he gets to the league. Looking at pick 64, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I think they could address a few things, but I think the Christian Barmore, just with the value, I think he's a better player, than the 71 overall ranking that he's been given. But Barmore is going to fill a need in the interior of that defensive line for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Keep doing what you do best and play great defense. And Christian Barmore goes a long ways in helping that Steelers defense. And that's going to conclude our second round. So we're taking a look at some of the selections here, and I'll just, scroll through them here so you can see. There's a couple of picks that can go, many different ways. And, if that's how you feel, you can let me know in the comment section below, because I know that there's going to be a few where fans say, we're not going to take this here, we're not going to take that there. But just remember, this is just a mock draft. It's a very early mock draft before we're able to get really in depth with the prospects or team needs, or because the free agency still has to happen and re-signing. So that could change everything when it comes to the NFL draft. Obviously, there's going to be, these picks won't happen. Not a lot of these. There's going to be a lot of movement in the NFL draft. The draft order is going to change. So, yeah. So everybody, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you did enjoy the video. Also, hit the like button. It really means a lot when you show your support. And we can't wait to see you in the next video.